All right, so most people here already know how to get to the homepage, but if you don't, that's just going to be trackwrestling.com in your internet browser. I do recommend using Google Chrome. That's going to be the best for almost every scenario here. So I'm in Google Chrome right now. That's my browser. Here I am on the Track Wrestling homepage. If you have not yet ordered your tournament or you have never done that before, to order your event, you're going to use this black menu bar here at the top. You're going to go to register on the far right hand side, and then you're going to click to run a tournament. That's going to bring you to this login page, and this is for a billing account. I do know that we have a lot of people signed up tonight that have never used Track Wrestling before. We do have some veterans, but if you've never used Track Wrestling before, this is going to be your billing account. If you're a high school or a college coach that uses the weight management program for your season team, these are two separate logins. So if you are trying to log in with that username and password and you're dead set, that's exactly what it should be, and it's not working, you may just need to create a billing account because those are two separate logins. But once you've created your billing account, you'll be good to go, and you'll be able to order your events right away. Once you've ordered your event, you'll get an email with a link that you can use to log in for the first time, but you don't have to wait for that email, or you don't have to find that email every time that you need to go log in. All you're going to do is click events in the white menu bar at the top of the screen, and here we'll be able to search for our events. I will point out that when we search, I always recommend under searching instead of over searching. So today's event is called Track Wrestling Academy. I'm just going to type the first couple letters. You never know who put a year in their title, how they spelled things. It gets really creative around here. So just know that if you're looking for a specific event, maybe it's not your event, always, always, always under search instead of over search, and that'll probably help you find what you're looking for a little bit faster. Here we go with our TW Academy event basics. And we are going to log in as an administrator. So just using that drop down, clicking administrator. My login information is going to pre-fill because this is my computer. However, if this is yours, this is going to be the same username and password that you used for that billing account, what you used to order the tournament. That's what you're going to use to log in for the first time. If you want this to come up in a separate window, you're going to just click new window. That's going to kind of pull up multiple tabs. If you're working out of multiple events, it's kind of nice, but if you're just working out of one like we'll be doing tonight, you probably won't need that. So we're going to enter our event. And this is going to bring you to your homepage. For your tournament, it's going to have your name here. It's really nice, very customized for you. On the right-hand side of our screen, you're going to see our to-do list. I recommend going through every single step on that to-do list from start to finish. That's going to take you through everything that you need to know step by step. There are video tutorials as well. It kind of is going to pop up in a separate window, step-by-step text instructions. And when you're complete with a step, you can check those off as you go. I'm not going to hit everything on this to-do list for time's sake, and also because I'm a storyteller, so we would probably be here for many, many hours, but just know that everything that you need for your tournament to be successful lives right there in that to-do list. I did mention that we were going to do this for printing bout sheets. However, if you're using electronic bout sheets and you choose that in your settings, this to-do list is dynamic. So as you adjust your settings, your to-do list will adjust as well. So it'll give you instructions for how to push those electronic bout sheets out should you be utilizing that, or maybe you're going to set up tie breaking or adding mats. Those instructions would then populate into your to-do list once you say, hey, these are what I'm using for my tournament. First things first, I'm going to show you where we would add multiple users. This menu bar here at the top is what we're going to be using. I can hide this to-do list right here, and I can always bring it back if I want. And I'm going to zoom in real quick, just in case that's kind of small for you guys. All right, so this menu bar here at the top, this is where we're going to be doing the majority of our navigation. If you are a longtime track wrestling user, then you may be more comfortable working out of the left menu tab. Here in this left menu tab is going to be pretty much everything that you need all in one place. However, to help you break it into a little bit more reasonable categories, we've got this setup tab, which is everything that you would need to set up your tournament, your registration tab, which are the things that you would do for registration, making sure participants are entered correctly. We've got the bracketing tab for as we build brackets. And then the operating tab, once your tournament's ready to roll, you'd be working mostly out of the operating tab. I'm going to do my best to remember to work out of those setup, registration, bracketing, and operating tabs tonight. However, you might see me use the left menu tab. Once upon a time, the only thing that you had was a left menu option. So that's just going to be where my comfort lies. So I will try my best to remember to use these up at the top for you guys, but just know if you see me out of the left menu, there's multiple ways to get to where you need to be.
New superintendent of schools, and he's sharing his goals for the Madison Metropolitan School District. Dr. Carlton Jenkins spoke with the media for the first time.
All right. So first things first, we're going to add an administrator. You can do that in lots of different tabs. I'm going to do it from the setup tab first tonight. We're going to go to setup and then users, and then we'll click administrator. This will bring you to this page here where you will be able to add an administrator right here. You can give them a username and a password. You don't have to add multiple administrators. You can use one login on multiple computers, but some people aren't comfortable giving their login information out, and that's totally fine. This is where you would come to create multiple logins if you had more than one person in your event. A couple of things I want to point out in the left menu that are rather important. The first one is this direct link. If we click on that, that's going to show you just a basic web link right here. What that does is allows you to copy and paste it. Maybe you have a website or a flyer, or you're sending it out to in an email. Using this link, it's going to bypass that search step that we went through very beginning where we logged in as administrators. It's going to bypass that step. So people, especially viewers looking at your tournament, sometimes it's a little bit more simpler to give them a sentence that says, click here. This is what you would use as your link. If you try to use a link up here from the URL search bar, these are time sensitive. So just know that your always best bet is going to be to use that direct link in the left menu tab. The next thing I want to point out is media contacts. This is a really cool way to keep your local media involved. Maybe that's a school paper or the local newspaper or your local broadcast station. Whatever that may be for you, you can add media contacts here using this Add Media Contact button. You would just enter their email address and you would be able to choose a team. We don't have any teams added right now, but once we add those, you would be able to choose specifically what team that media contact was for, and they would get just the information for that team. You can always leave this blank if you want them to have all of the information, not just a specific team. But it's kind of nice to be able to have that to push out to different news sources, local media outlets, whatever the case may be. The next one I'm going to point out in the left menu tab is this print documents option. This print documents page pretty much has everything that you would need to print within your event, whether that be a weigh-in sheet, rosters, your bout sheets. Everything can be found here. So if you ever get in a pinch and you panic and you can't remember how many clicks or where to go to print something special, come to this print documents page. Chances are it's right here for you and you can find what you need all in one place. And then the last thing I want to show you in this left menu tab is the statistics option. These are really cool if you are giving out special awards. Maybe you want to give out an award for the fastest fall or the most pens, or maybe you just want to pull out some information because you're going to have your coaches at your event vote on a most outstanding wrestler. This is a really cool place to kind of come and pull some statistics from the event. You can look at some of these options here, and kind of see, who really did perform well all in one place already in the system for you to find. You can view that by individual, weight class. There's some teams and also divisions. So that's a really neat place to play in as well. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to double check our settings page. So that's going to be setup tab again, and then we're going to look for settings. Most of the time, you're not going to need to change any of this. However, there are a couple, maybe you want to update your event name. You can do that right here on this settings page. It's going to be this first thing. If you don't know what these things are, if you click on them, you can kind of see these little boxes pop up. This is the event name. Maybe I need to change my event location and add a new address. I can do that as well. You can also change your event logo URL, and that kind of comes into play right here on this search page again. This is kind of the basic standard, just generic track wrestling logo, but maybe you want that to be something custom. You can see some of these other events here have uploaded their own logos, and it just kind of makes it stand out a little bit more from that search page. So that's where you can upload your event logo. You can add your contact email. You can add a flyer or your event website for people to look at. If you are part of a governing body, maybe you're a high school state association or your college or whatever that may be for you, you can add your governing body here to make sure that it links back correctly. For tonight's purposes, I'm going to use the high school boys season. You would be able to choose boys, girls, middle school, youth, college, if you were a college event. Whatever the case may be for you, whatever you add as your governing body, there's going to have those options for you to choose from. And if you ran this tournament last year and you want to be able to connect kind of the two together, you can always add that previous event here, and kind of just keeps that historical chain together. There's a lot to read going down through here. I'm not going to go through all of it because, again, I'd probably have a story about every single thing. But I will say, like I said before, maybe you're using mats in your tournament. You would want to make sure that you turn your mats on to yes so that your mats option shows up. If you're ever looking for something and it's not there, just make sure you check your settings page. Make sure your mats are turned on. Make sure your if you're doing something different with tie breaking, you've got that turned on. Maybe you're using electronic bouts. Make sure you've got electronic bouts turned on if that's the case for you. We're not going to be changing any of this tonight, but this is where all of that lives. So if you're ever looking for something, can't find it, just make sure you check your settings page, make sure everything's turned on correctly for your tournament. The next thing I'm going to do is choose my bracket type. Again, back here in this setup menu and bracket types. There's so many bracket types, 128 different types of bracket types. And so some things that I will say about the bracket types. If you are looking to do a round robin and you have 9 wrestlers, you're going to want to choose that 10-man round robin. Always size up. There's probably not going to be bracket types specifically for an odd number of wrestlers, just because that's not how that really plays out. Always size up. So if you've got 9 kids or you got 9 teams coming, size up to 10 or 12 or 16 or whatever that works for you. I will tell you that some people find this really daunting to read. They have absolutely no idea what this means. So just to kind of read it for you in track wrestling language, this one right here is a 16-man bracket. Wrestle back to third. That means that consolation side of the bracket's moving to third place. That whole left-hand side, that's where they're going. Once you lose and hit that consolation side, you're wrestling back for third, and they're going to place the top 10 in this bracket. If we're ready to choose a bracket type, we're going to use this plus option here. If you're not so sure if you're ready for that one or not, you can always click the view sample and see what that looks like. See if that bracket type is really going to work for you. There's over 100 different bracket types to choose from. There's probably something that will work for your event. If you're not sure or you aren't confident in your decision, feel free to shoot us a chat. I'll go ahead and show you where to do that as well. This blue Need Help tab on the right-hand side of our screen is an awesome tool to use for literally everything. Once you click that Need Help tab, you're going to get some suggested articles. You can search our Help Center, but you can also submit a live chat. And when you click this live chat, you're going to be connected to one of our wrestling-specific support members, and we're going to be able to help you one-on-one, take a look at your event, and you'll get a pretty quick response. Again, that's our live chat feature. It's only available for tournament directors, so make sure that you choose that when you log into your tournament in this Need Help tab, so that we can get to you the fastest. For today's purposes, I'm going to be using an 8-man bracket that lives all the way down here towards the bottom. I'm going to wrestle back to third place, and I'm going to place the top 4. So this is the bracket type I'm going to choose for today. That's going to bring this up here to the added bracket types. I could change the size if I needed to. I can view the sample. I would say if you've never done this before, don't try it the day of your tournament. Again, test it all beforehand. Make sure. If you need to really get in deep, or we tell you to look at something on the advanced settings, this little wheel icon is your advanced settings icon. You can always click it. It's going to bring you into those more advanced settings if that's something that you're working on. Or if we decide that's not really what we want, we can always click this red X to delete it. Anytime that you delete something or make a big change, it's going to pop up a window that says, are you sure this is exactly what you want to do? Please type something. For this box, it's a yes. And once I type yes and hit OK, you can see that's going to remove that bracket type. I'm going to add it again real quick so that we can keep going. Wrestle back to third place 4. Perfect. And the next thing we're going to do is add some teams. So back to this setup menu and then teams. We don't have any here yet, so we're going to go to add team. And the first one I am going to add is Mitchell, and it is in North Carolina. I'm going to click add, and I've got another pop-up, and it says you have to have a team name, abbreviation, and state. So I've got to go back to this little box here, add my abbreviation, and now I'll be able to add that team. It's going to automatically, if you are already linked to a specific season, pull what it thinks is the best option based on the information it has. So here you see it's already linked to that season team in the OPC system. If it doesn't link correctly, I can always use this get button to kind of search and see, okay, that's not actually what it was. I really wanted to link it to, maybe they go by a different name. Maybe I really wanted to do it here. If it's not a great match, it's always going to show in red. So if it's in red, it just kind of means, hey, you might want to double check. I'm not so sure about this, that these match. If you're positive that it's good, then you can feel free to leave it. If you're not positive that it's good, always go back to that get button and make sure that you're really connecting to the right teams so that everything comes through correctly. Maybe you have a team coming that doesn't use the OPC system. Maybe they're an out-of-state team or they're a private school. Whatever the case may be, it's always going to try to find the best match. If you know for a fact they're not in the system anywhere, just go ahead and choose no match, and that's going to just keep them from linking to somebody else's team. You don't want those results getting lost or given to somebody else, right? So I'm going to go back and choose the right one, and that's there. If I needed to change something, maybe I need to change the spelling of the name or even delete it, I'm going to click on the name of this team, and I'm going to have some other options. I've got this edit team button. I can delete this team, can recalculate their points. If I needed to edit, maybe I want to change their abbreviation. I can do that from here and save. And then that's updated again. Again, you can also delete from here. I will go ahead and point out this team point adjustment button. Maybe you have a team that's lost a team point for misconduct, or whatever the case may be, you come to this team point adjustments. This is again on the teams page. Click on the name of the team. You're going to click team point adjustment, and we can add a team point. If you're losing a team point, just make sure it's -1. And for whatever reason, unsportsmanlike conduct, you can add as much detail or as little detail as you so choose, and you can add that there. Once we go back to that teams page, you'll see they're already starting off with a -1 team point because I did add that team point adjustment. So I can go back here. I can always delete it if I want, just clicking on it, click OK, and we're back to 0. We'll leave it for 0 for now, and we will move on to adding some weight classes. So back to that setup menu, weight classes, and we are going to add our first weight class. The first one I'm going to do is 106. Oops. Then I'm going to move to the max weight. Maybe you have a 2-pound allowance and you would want to set this max weight to 108. Whatever the case may be there, I'm going to leave it at 106 just because it's a little bit simpler for me. And time-wise, it's going to pre-fill to whatever your weight class is. Again, you can always change that. And what that does is kind of helps you be able to keep tabs on if anybody weighs in over that max weight and they should have been put in a different weight class, but maybe it didn't get caught at the actual weigh-in. It just kind of is a little check and balance there. So I'm going to add that weight class there. Again, if I needed to change the name of this weight class, or maybe I want to delete this weight class, just like we did on the teams page, you can click on the name of the weight class, which is 106. Excuse me. I can choose to change the weight class name. So maybe I want it to be actually 106A. You can use numerical values or alphabetical letters, whatever works best for you. Sometimes you need an A and a B, or sometimes you just want to call it bracket A, bracket B, bracket C. You know, whatever the case may be for you, you can name these weight classes whatever you want. Click OK, and now it says this is weight class 106A. I'm going to leave it as just regular 106, so I'm going to change it back real quick. You can also delete the weight class right here using this delete weight class button. It'll ask you to type delete and click OK, just making sure that, yes, we are wanting to make that big of a change. I'm going to leave it for now and go back to my weight classes tab. I'm going to add one more for us tonight. Add weight class. This will be 113. And I'll click add. All right, so we've got 2 weight classes in. We've seen how to change their names, how to delete them, maybe when I had a mistake or whatever the case may be. And now we are going to fill those weight classes with 1 wrestler per team. So what filling the weight classes does is it allows 1 spot per team per weight class. So this is going to be on the wrestlers page. And again, there's lots of different places. I just went to the operating tab. I told you guys at the beginning I was going to jump all over just because it's just where my brain goes. You can also do it in setup. There's also the wrestlers tab and registration. It lives almost everywhere. So just know any of those tabs, wrestlers or participants, is going to get you to the same screen. We're going to use this fill weight class button, and we're going to add a participant to every weight class for every team and click OK. This kind of keeps us from getting, maybe you are running a tournament and you only want a team to bring 1 person per weight class. We can kind of lock that down and say, okay, this is your allotted space within that weight class. You're going to just change from unknown to a specific wrestler's name. And then that kind of is reserving your chair, if you will, at the table for that specific weight class for each team. It also allows the statisticians can still import their rosters using the unknown unknowns. And you always want to do this, especially for varsity tournaments. Maybe you are just maybe you're going to open it up. Maybe they can bring more than one person per weight class. You can always tweak those settings on that settings page if you need to. But for tonight, we're just going to kind of keep it standard. So now that we've added all of these people, how exactly are those coaches going to enter their rosters? How do we do that? Well, we need to add them. We call those statisticians. So we're going to set up our statistician login again under that setup tab, and then back to users. And this time we're going to choose statisticians. Right now we don't have any statisticians added. What I'm going to do is add team statisticians. All of my teams, like we did before, we made sure they were all linked correctly to the OPC season. And what that's going to allow us to do is tap into that information that already lives on the OPC side with those coaches, those contact emails. Anybody that's an administrator from that team is going to get added here as a team statistician in one click. So it's nice and easy. We're going to say, yes, we're ready to add those. We're going to click OK, and there we are. We've got lots of different people there with their emails, and now we can choose to send those notification emails that says, hello, we are ready for you to enter your roster. All you're going to do is come to this notification email. It's going to say, hey, make sure that you filled your weight classes so that they can enter people. I'm going to click OK because I know that we've already done that step. Here you would enter your contact information, whatever the case may be, so that if coaches have questions, they can contact you directly, and we can send this out. That's going to say, hey, this is the deadline information that we need to use. This is when you can submit your rosters by, and here's the link to do it. If they don't get this email and they are tied directly to the OPC season, don't worry. They can log into their season team on their schedule page and use a green envelope icon to access this exact same information to act as their statistician login. Maybe you have a team that doesn't have their OPC stuff. You would just need to manually add them using this add statistician. You can enter their first and last name, give them a username and password, add their email address so that you can send them their information, send those notification emails out, and assign them to a specific team to enter information for. The next thing I'm ready to do is set up my number schemes. So I'm going back to that setup tab and to number schemes. And I already added this one and forgot to delete it earlier. But you can kind of see what this would look like. This is a number scheme, and what this does is it adds a unique bout number to every match in your tournament. If you don't add these, then when you print out your brackets, you're going to have match 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on 106. You're going to have the same match 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on 113, and so on and so forth. So this kind of gives everything its own number, its specific like identifier, if you will. And maybe you have two gyms going. Maybe you have like an upper gym and a lower gym, and we're going to kind of split those weight classes just the same. We can add another scheme here to fit that need. And I'm going to do the first half of the weight classes here. And you can select more than one. You can select just one, whatever that works for you. You can select all rounds. Maybe you only want to select up to the placement matches because you're going to run the placement matches differently. Whatever that looks like, I'm just going to choose all rounds for now. And I'm going to start that upper gym at bout number 101. Then I'm going to add my lower gym scheme. I'm just going to call it lower. I'm going to add these bottom half of the weight classes, all rounds, and I'm going to start them at 501 and add. And here you see now I have two more number schemes that I can choose from. And when you go to apply these, we'll uncheck some of these boxes and only apply one at a time. So this is pretty customizable based off of what you need, what bout number you really want to start at. For today's purposes, I'm just going to be using the all scheme because that's what I do the most frequently at my tournaments. But again, you can kind of make this happen for whatever you need, whatever works best for you. To delete these, you just click this delete button. And just be sure that you spell it correctly or else it won't be deleted. And now we're back to just this one scheme. All right, now that we've got everything pretty much set up that we need to set up, I will point out that we can copy this to our testing site. And our testing site is exactly the same as our live site, but nobody knows except for you now how to find it and how to see those. So you can kind of practice building your brackets. You can practice, maybe you need to add some fake wrestlers to get, some practice under your belt so that you can make sure you're clicking the buttons in the right order. Maybe you want to play with your team scoring settings, whatever that looks like for you. I would always recommend doing everything that you're not sure about, that you're playing with, or that you want to test the settings for. Always do that on the testing site. And then, so we're going to copy our tournament to the testing site. I'm going to go back to setup, and then I'm going to go to import settings. And here at the very, very bottom, you're going to see click here to copy the current state of your tournament over to the testing site. Once you click here, it's going to give you a really not pretty white screen with a lot of words on it. But that's what's going to push your tournament over to testing. And you'll know that you're actually on the testing site when you see this is going to go through this process. It does take it a few minutes. This is a lot of information to transfer from one place to the other, but you'll know that you are successfully on the testing site when this changes on your URL to be staging.trackwrestling.com. We'll give this just a second to kind of process through, and I'm going to force submit it. And here you see at the top, we're in staging.trackwrestling.com. And you'll just search for that tournament just the same way we did before, TW Academy. And there we are. We can log in with our same username and password. And enter our event. Again, we are on the testing site, so everywhere on testing is going to be staging.trackwrestling. I'm going to go back to the live site because I feel pretty confident about where we are with our tournament, and we will continue to move forward. Also on that import settings page, so I'll go back to that for a second, set up import settings. Once you set up your first tournament, maybe you've got more than one this season. Maybe you or maybe you are helping out a friend. Once you set up one tournament and you know it goes well, everything was great, you don't have to go through all of these same steps again. You can import all of your same settings. Maybe you ran it last year even. You don't even have another one this season, but you ran it last year and it worked great. You can come here to this import settings page, choose the settings that you want to bring into your new event, choose the event that you're bringing them in from, and you'll be able to click that import. That error message that I just got said you cannot import from a tournament of a different format. So these are predefined tournaments. You're not going to be able to import from an open format, which would be multiple age divisions, multiple weight classes within that age group. You're not going to be able to import settings from a dual team tournament or anything like that. So just make sure that you always know that you're utilizing the same format when you get ready to import. But I can import from the same format here, and then I'll just click this import button. So Garrett was kind enough to make up a bunch of fake names for us. So I'm ready to go and start the building brackets phase of my tournament setup. So I'm going back to setup, and I'm going to go check out that wrestlers page. Here we've got lots of kids and lots of weight classes. He was really fast on picking out grade levels and records. So the next thing that I need to do is delete those unknowns. Remember when we filled all of those weight classes and we had unknown, unknown? Well, now I want to take all of those unknown unknowns and take them out of the tournament so that I just have real people. So I'm going to go delete unknowns. I'm going to type delete here in the box and click OK. And that's going to take out anybody that doesn't need to be there, that's not a real person, and it kind of sets me up ready to go and build my brackets. And for this, I'm going to use the bracketing tab just because I'm ready to build. This is what I'm working on, is my bracketing. So I'm going to go seed and build. It's just going to say, hey, remember to delete those unknown kids so you don't have random people that aren't real in your bracket. I did that already. I'm going to click OK. And you can kind of see here, I have the ability to see this pretty easily. I have some seating criteria set up. You can customize the seating criteria. It is over here in your to-do list if you're interested in playing around with that. But I'm going to use some standard seating criteria. They've got one match towards their record. That's my first thing. All of these kids do. My record winning percentage, that's what it's going to sort by next, and then how many wins they have. So I'm just going to kind of use these standard placings, but I do like this kid that has 34 wins under his belt. They're pretty close in record, and maybe my coaches have voted in the seeding meeting to move him up to seed number 2. I can use these arrows next to the move wrestler to kind of move kids around into different seeds positions as needed. And then whenever I'm happy with that, I'm going to make sure that I choose seed all wrestlers, and I'm going to build that bracket. And I'll click OK. And now this bracket is built. I can view that and make sure it looks like what I thought it was going to look like by using that bracket option there in the top. And I can kind of take a look. I've got 2 buys, I've got 6 kids. This is my nice 8-man bracket, wrestling back that consolation side to 3rd place. And I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm going to leave it, and I can move on to my next weight class. This is my 113 weight class. I'm going to just check these guys out. Maybe you want to see the top 3, but after that, then you're not too concerned about it. You can always just make sure that you've got your top 3 here. They're good to go. You can use this drop down to say, I only want to seed through 3. And what that's going to do is going to keep those 3 people on that specific GPS location for those 3 seeds. Seed 1 at the very top, seed 2 at the very bottom, seed 3 kind of in the middle. Those, everybody knows about where those land. So it's going to keep them in those exact spots. It's going to just draw everybody else that's not in those seeds into the bracket somewhere. So maybe you just want to seed top 2s, top 4. Maybe you want to seed them all, whatever that looks like for you. I'm going to do top 3 for this one just to kind of show you. And I'm going to click build. Okay. And now my 113 bracket is built. Let's just double check. I've got my seed 1 at the top, my seed 2 at the bottom, my seed 3 here in the middle, and everybody else kind of just got drawn in. Not necessarily having a specified seed, but just kind of wherever they landed, luck of the draw there. You can see somebody drew into seed number 8, so there's not a bye for that first round, first seed match because somebody did draw that seed. So kind of gives you a little bit more randomizing there if you're interested in utilizing that. And now I'm going to verify that my brackets have been built. And we're going to look for a weight class option in one of these menus. I'm going to go back to bracketing because I know it's there. It's also in operating. It's probably in all of them, to be honest. But I'm going to go back to this bracket weight class menu. And here I can see I've got all 14 weight classes. I've got 6 wrestlers in each weight class. I've got the same bracket type across the board. The seeds have been saved and the brackets have all been built for these. So these are good to go. And now I'm ready to put my bout numbers back on. So we created those number schemes a minute ago. Now we're going to go apply those. So bracketing and then number schemes. I've got that all scheme. I'm going to make sure it's checked right here. And then I'm going to apply selected schemes. And I'm going to click continue. It's going to say be sure. I'm going to make sure that I type it correctly and click go. And now I will have bout numbers on all of my brackets. You can kind of double check that too here in this bout schedule. And you'll see bouts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So these all have numbers associated with them. 2 bouts, bouts number this and this. You can also see that in the bout detail. You'll see here bout number 1, bout 2, bout 3, bout 4, bout 5, so on and so forth, if you're using bout numbers. All right, so now my brackets are good to go. I've built them. They have bout numbers. Now let's print them. I typically go to the operating tab and then printing. Again, you can go, there's so many different print menus. And if you're unsure, you can always go back to the left menu and then print brackets from there. But I'm gonna go operating and printing and then brackets. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. So here is my printing page. You can see anything in red means that it has been updated since the last time it has been printed. Whether that is a result has been entered, maybe they're moved on to the next round, whatever that case may be, that bracket has updated since the last time it was printed. Once we print these, they will turn just back to regular black text. And then again, they'll be red when they're ready to be printed again. So I'm going to select all of these and click print. It says, do you want to mark them as that you've printed them? I do want to, because I need help keeping up with that, and it's better to have it not on a sticky note for me personally. Again, it's totally up to you. And then to print these, you're just going to open your print menu, whether that's a right click and print, maybe you prefer to do Control P or Command P, whatever your computer may be. You're going to open your computer's print menu. Make sure that you choose to landscape, and that's just going to kind of fit it better on the page. And now you've got all your brackets ready to print. Every single one has a unique bout number. As we scroll through, we'll just double check all of those. And we are ready to go. We can print those. I'm not going to print them to my printer tonight, but we can print those. And then when I go back to that operating printing and brackets, you'll see that now all of those are no longer red because I have marked those as printed. When the weight class is totally complete and ready for medals, it'll be highlighted in green, just like this note down here at the bottom says. So once it's highlighted in green, you know that that bracket is complete. Those awards are ready to be given. Those placements have been identified. So we've got our brackets. Now we need to print some bout sheets to get out to the mats and get rolling. My favorite place to print bout sheets from is operating and then bout schedule. And this is going to give us a list of matches. And you'll see some of these matches are not highlighted and some of them are. What this means is if they are highlighted in yellow, then you need to, it's kind of a caution symbol. They can't be printed yet because they're waiting on results from an earlier round. They don't know the two wrestlers participating in that match, so they're not ready to go. So what I'm going to do is just check mark everything that's not yellow. And you can see none of these have been printed yet. None of them are marked as printed. I'm going to check, check, check. Lots of check boxes. And then I'm going to do print selected bouts. It's going to show me again everything that I wanted to print. Make sure that your time settings are correct. Again, these are pretty standard, but maybe you are running a tournament that only has a 30-minute wait time or whatever the case may be, you can make sure that that's correct there. I'm just going to go ahead and print. I do want to mark these as printed because I'm doing that right now. That's going to open up this tab. I've got all of my bouts here. Again, you're going to do that Control P, Command P. Maybe that's a right click print option for you. That's what I'm using tonight is right click and print. And that's going to open up your print dialog for your browser. You want your bout sheets to be portrait. Again, that's just what they're made to kind of fit more so. And you see we've got period 1, 2, and 3. We've got some overtime. We can choose the match summary down here at the bottom, and we can print those 28 bouts for that first round. And once those have been printed, we'll come back to our bout schedule and refresh this, and you'll see now these are all marked as printed. So I know that those are done. Once the next round is ready to go, these will become unhighlighted, and I'll know that I'm ready to print the next round as we go through. And the last thing that you need to know probably about getting your tournament off the ground and rolling is, how do I enter these results? We've got whistles blown. We've got brackets on the wall. We've got matches at the mat. How do I get the results in? It's pretty easy. If you're already here, you can use this bout entry tab. It also lives in that operating tab. Operating bout entry, it's going to bring you to this exact same screen. You can enter the bout number of the match. So maybe bout number 5 came back first, not bout number 1. I can enter the 5 right there in the bout number box and click go. And that's going to find that bout number for me. Again, that number should be listed on those bout sheets if you chose to add bout numbers to your matches. I can also search by weight class here. Maybe you didn't want to add bout numbers, so but you have a 113 and the 106 popped up first. So I can go to 113 here in this drop down weight class and find the match that I need there as well. And I can also view the bracket from here for 113 and kind of see what the bracket's looking like from this page as well. So when you're ready to enter that result, you're going to choose a winner. You can use this drop down to choose, and it's going to show you a wrestler being highlighted, whether that be red or blue or green in folk style. It's blue on this screen. You can also just click up here if you don't want to use the drop down, and it dynamically changes well. And then we're going to choose our win type. So I'm going to say that they won by a decision, and it was 0 to 15. I'm going to click save, and this is going to say, hey, the win type that you entered isn't correct. I know that's not correct. I just wanted to show you guys that this is going to try to fail safe it for you to make sure that you do get the right win type selected for these matches. That way the right team points are applied correctly. So anything bigger than an 8-point spread should be either a major or a tech fall. This one obviously should be a tech fall. So I can change that win type right there. I'm going to have to add that match score again just to make sure that I got it correct. If you want to enter the time for the tech fall, you can. It just adds some additional information to the bracket. Also, if you're going to use those statistics later on, go ahead and enter that information now instead of later. I don't typically enter my tech fall times, but again, that's totally a personal preference. I'm going to click save, and it's going to be ready for me to find the next bout to enter. Maybe bout number 1 came back now. So I'm going to click go. Now I've got these 2 kids. I can enter that as a fall or a pin, and I can enter that time. We're going to say he pinned him in 1 minute, 3 seconds, and he scored 4 points along the way. And I can click save, and now that result is in. I can verify that by looking at this bracket again if I need to. You can see that first result is in. McCarthy won 1 minute and 3 seconds on that fall, and that's ready for the next round. And then finally, we're going to go back to that team scoring just to kind of show you what it looks like. I'm going to use this operating tab just because I'm in the operations of my tournament at this point in the game. Teams, and here you can see I've got a few more teams, their roster number, and based off the results that we've already entered, you can see I've got 4 points already awarded, 3.5 points already awarded. We did go over how to add those deductions. Remember, click on the team name and use the team point adjustment option. If you're doing a negative amount, make sure you put a negative, -1, unsportsmanlike conduct. And then add. And then when we go back to this team page, it's going to have reduced them by 1 point. Maybe you have a wrestler that has been ejected. You can go to that wrestler. So I'm going to click on the name of the team. I can find the wrestler name, and I'm going to change them to a non-scoring wrestler right here. So maybe your wrestler's been ejected from the tournament. You do not want to delete them from that bracket because there are results there, and that's going to affect somebody else's wins and losses. But we don't want them scoring. We don't want them collecting any team points. So we can just change them to a non-scoring wrestler and save. And that's going to keep them from accumulating team points without changing any of the results within the bracket. Maybe you've got a couple coaches that are going at it as to the number of team points that they feel like they should have, or the why behind the team points that they see online. You can always click on this team point amount from this teams page, and it's going to give you a breakdown of how exactly they got those, how many of those are advancement points, how many of our activity points, how many are placements. So again, this is a great resource. If you've got a couple coaches that are questioning how they got the score that they did, you can pull this up for them and kind of show them. All right, so that is everything that you need to get up off the ground and rolling. That's right at an hour. Again, I highly recommend going through this to-do list. If this is your first tournament, it's going to take you step by step exactly through everything that I went through tonight, plus more in a little bit more detail. Again, it would take me less than an hour to set up my first tournament. However, I'm pretty comfortable using the system, I would say. And also, if I tried to explain it all within an hour, we would not make it, because I like to tell stories about everything, as you may have noticed. But again, go through this to-do list start to finish, check them off as you go through. And if you have a question, always use that need help tab on the right hand side of any track wrestling page. Make sure you use that live chat option so that we can get to you the quickest. We're here almost 15 hours a day during season, 365 days a year. So you'll get a response fairly quickly, even if it's, 9-10 o'clock at night, depending on your location. We're here to help. We're open pretty early in the mornings as well. So just know that we are available if you do have questions while you're setting up your tournament. I am going to open it up for questions and discussions in just a second, but if you are good to go, you don't have any questions, that I just want to say thank you again for joining in tonight. We look forward to seeing you on one of our next video training sessions. Videos of all of these courses will be available on Track Wrestling, so be sure to look out for those if you want to go back and go through some of the information that we went through tonight. Again, we do have some more courses coming up that go into a little bit more detail about specific things. You can always utilize that need help tab on the right hand side of any Track Wrestling page. Otherwise, I will say good evening to you. If you want to jump off, feel free at this point. If you want to stay on and ask a couple questions, I will kind of open the floor up to that. Feel free to throw those in the chat, or if you need to talk it out, you're welcome to unmute yourself as well. So how do you allow multiple entries per weight class per team? That would be a setting on your settings page. Let me pop back into this event real quick. So that's going to live here on your settings page. I'm going to go left menu settings just because that's quickest for me. You can always set this setting to allow statisticians to add wrestlers from the roster. That's going to allow them to add more than those unknowns that you gave them. And you can also choose whether you want them to delete wrestlers from their roster. So giving them a little bit more power to, once they enter somebody, are you going to let them take them off, or are they kind of stuck with that and you're the only person that gets to do the deleting? So if you do want to allow more than one kid per weight class, you can always set this to yes. That's going to allow them to add above and beyond that unknown specific one person per team per weight class option. Again, that's on that settings page. Thanks, Jeremy. Holding a seating meeting via Zoom. Yep, looks like Garrett's on that one. Yep, so you could easily do exactly what we're doing tonight and kind of show them your screen. You can also do a seating meeting kind of report type thing that lives on this print documents page. Is my favorite place to find it. And if we do weight class rosters, I'm gonna up this font size just a tad. Then you can also see all of that information. So maybe you want to print this as a PDF or whatever, save it to your computer, and then send it out as a PDF. They can kind of look at this. It's going to give them their team, grade, record, and all of that seating information that you had them enter. Again, this is just standard. So if you had your own seating information in here, it would all be here as well. That again is going to be that print documents page and then that weight class roster to get that information. Yeah, so assigning to a specific mat, chances are if you are using a youth tournament, you are going to be in a different format, which has a few different settings, and one of those is to be able to assign to a specific mat. In a predefined tournament, it's going to only use a kind of call to mat system. But the theory is kind of the same. You would need to turn your mats on your settings page, go to use mats and do yes. Once we do that, we'll come back here and refresh, continue. And that's now going to give me a mats option in my tabs. So you can add a mat here, say mat 1, and then you would be able to assign those. The signing works a little bit differently in an open format tournament as far as like a youth tournament. In a predefined format tournament, one of the easier places to do that is from this bout detail page. That's operating bout detail. You can use this drop box here to assign the mat that you want it to go to or to change it. And that's probably the simplest answer there. I'm happy to show you in an open format, which is probably what you would be using for a youth league tournament. And it's a lot, I find it to be a lot simpler in a youth format tournament, but I can show you that a little bit later, or you're welcome to submit a ticket using that need help tab. And I can send you a video, or we can set up a time to talk about that a little bit more specifically. All right. Any other questions? If not, feel free to go ahead and hop off. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks again for hopping on with us tonight. And I look forward to seeing you in a future Track Wrestling Academy training.